Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Louise Houghton.
Hello and welcome to the show today, which starts off with a fashion that's not for the faint-hearted. But first, here's a look at what else is coming up in the next half an hour. On display, an exhibition by sculptor Anish Kapoor opens in Berlin. Top cuisine, the world's #1 restaurant is in Spain. And famous composer following in the footsteps of Richard Wagner. Pale makeup, spikes around the neck, and of course the mohawk haircut. Not something that you will see me wearing, but there are thousands of people who are big fans of the punk and goth look. Since the 80s, there's been a growing interest in the Gothic scene. The 21st Wave Gothic Festival, held here in Germany this last weekend, demonstrated just how popular it's now become with a record number of visitors.
Every year, thousands of people head to Leipzig for the Wave Gothic Festival. The city hosts concerts and parties for fans of the goth scene, but many go to just show off their style, and that doesn't always mean black.
First of all, I'm a Hello Kitty soldier, because, I like Hello Kitty. And second of all, I'm a cyber fairy in a neon bubble.
Steampunk. Steampunk. There are steampunk clothes and steampunk items.
Fans sometimes spend hundreds of euros on costumes, like on opulent Victorian wigs, clothes and extravagant hats. And you can see them all here at the festival's trade show. Spanish designer Bibian Blue has her own stand there. She specializes in corsets and lace dresses.
I think that the fashion is one of the main important thing of this Gothic scene. Apart from the music, it's the fashion. It's always been like that. It's like punk, or it's like so many different styles. We need to reinvent all the time, and we need to get inspiration from everywhere.
Gothic aesthetics have recently been adopted by well-known brands who have produced collections inspired by the dark designs. The new face of the fashion label Yves Saint Laurent isn't a model, but Marilyn Manson, one of the world's most famous goths. The festival's been going on since 1992. Back then, a few hundred people came together to listen to Gothic music. This year, 20,000 attended. Music is still a big draw for the event. This year, more than 200 bands are playing. The Swiss Celtic group Kel Amron is one of them. As is the folk rock band Letzte Instanz. The band Das Ich has been here right from the start. They're big names in the goth scene and play in clubs all over the world.
There are people from Porto Alegre in Brazil who save up for 3 or 4 years to be here. Every year they put their Christmas money to one side. So you can imagine what the atmosphere is like here. In this metropolis, this Gotham City, people come face to face with the capital of the Gothic scene.
Alexander Nym is fascinated by it. The cultural scientist used to be a goth himself. Now he's writing a book about how the scene has changed.
It's not a subculture anymore. In the 1980s, there were just a couple of kids into it who went around with funny haircuts and strange makeup in order to shock people. They probably never dreamed that 25 or 30 years later, such a massive event like this would be organised and billed as a cultural festival.
While those first goths have grown up and are raising families, the young and old still meet here, from cyber goths to fans of the medieval to Baroque beauties. The event is also listed in the city's own cultural calendar and tourist guidebooks. And for people in Leipzig, it's certainly an eye-catcher.
The big hoop skirts are fantastic. The Rococo stuff, I really like it.
There are some really striking people, like that guy with the mask. Okay, it takes some getting used to.
Lovely corsets, they're great.
I heard today even foreigners are coming.
The Goths' tendency to shock has diminished, but the style is still intriguing, laced as it is with a sense of aesthetic, in addition to being mildly morbid.
Wax is a material that easily changes shape with a bit of heat. So, making a huge sculpture out of it might seem a strange thing to do, but not for Indian-born British sculptor Anish Kapoor. His latest wax formation is now a major part of an exhibition here in Berlin that features around 70 of his works in all sorts of materials, from stone to wood and steel to glass. We went along to take a look.
Anish Kapoor's mirrored sculptures shimmer and shine. They seem playful at first glance, but actually require strict technical precision. The pieces invite viewers to look closer as their images become transformed and distorted in the glass. In addition to the mirrored works, the British Indian artist also uses synthetic resins for other pieces. And he's made a huge bell out of wax that's being continually shaped.
I like it because I think you lose the feeling of the usual life and you see yourself in the fourth dimension.
This is a lot of fun because this is very interesting because you get multiples. So you have many noses, many eyes. It's you can't do that effect easily. So it's fun to see exactly what happens when you try it out.
Kapoor, who's won the coveted Turner Prize, has created a dark world for the Martin Gropiusbau Museum in Berlin. 4 steel conveyor belts stand in the atrium, carrying 60-kilo wax blocks from hidden spaces skyward towards a stylized sun. But what goes up must come down. The carefully controlled machines create random results.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but clearly a work made in this place, in this city, in this site, has a certain historical perspective. It has to. What I've tried to do is to use the space almost as if it has other arms. So this conveyor goes down below into the dungeon, so to speak, underground.
Many of his works were created here in South London. A month before the show opened, Kapoor held a press conference to discuss how his concepts would be implemented. He's the creative mind behind the pieces and has 20 skilled workers to carry out his designs. The job is often physically hard, and some of the materials are toxic.
As Hillary's doing here, wonderfully, kind of trying to get this form so that it's pretty perfect.
Kapoor was born in Mumbai, India in 1954. He's been famous since the 1980s, when his works first began attracting attention. In 2004, he designed the Cloud Gate, a 110-ton steel structure in Millennium Park in Chicago. The 115-metre-high orbit was built for London's 2012 Summer Olympics. The work of art also doubles as a viewing platform.
I think scale is a real tool of sculpture. The art world has traditionally been rather suspicious of scale. It's not just a size, it's a size and, if you like, the content. They're like that with each other. Otherwise, it's just big, who cares?
In 2011, he put up a sculpture in Paris dedicated to Chinese civil rights activist and artist Ai Weiwei. Called Leviathan, it symbolized a corrupt state. It was made from 15 tons of plastic and was hollow. People could get inside it. Its remains are now on display in the Martin Gropiusbau. Does it signify the fall of the state? Or is it just a lot of old PVC? The experts are impressed.
The viewer has to bring his own experience to it. He could see the entire cultural history of humanity in this exhibition, or he could say it's the insides of a body. Whatever he sees in it.
There are very famous sculptures of his, like the one in Chicago. They're incredibly popular because everyone can play with them. It's almost like postcard art, because everyone has their picture taken in front of it. And he has other works you can hang in the living room. So he serves his collectors too.
Kapoor's versatile art has secured his success. His performance piece, Shooting in the Corner, is just one more example. Another bullseye for Anish Kapoor.
Now, in the world of ballet, there is one award ceremony that is equivalent to the Oscars, the Prix Benoît de la Danse. These prestigious accolades were first presented back in 1991. They were named in honour of the Russian theatre artist, painter and writer Alexandre Benoît, who was a great influence on modern ballet. We accompanied one of the 7 nominees to this year's ceremony at Moscow's famous Bolshoi Theatre.
Vladislav Lantratov has been nominated for the coveted Prix Benoît de la Danse. The shooting star at the Moscow Bolshoi Theatre will find out later tonight if he's won. He's in the running alongside 20 dancers and choreographers from all over the world.
It's a very prestigious prize. Great, talented artists have received it in the past and are on the list this time. I'm honored to be nominated.
Lantratov has received the nod for his lead roles in 2 classical pieces. Tonight's programme features excerpts from classical and contemporary productions from both Europe and the US.
I usually come to the performances here, and tonight I can see excerpts from very different shows. It's exciting.
It's a significant event. We came here tonight because we're big fans of ballet.
It produces lots of wonderful young artists, and it's wonderful to see the contrast between classical ballet and modern ballet that we're seeing here tonight.
Moscow's Bolshoi Theatre is where all aspiring Russian ballet dancers dream of ending up. And Lantratov got here when he was only 19. He's been dancing the role of Philippe, a French revolutionary in The Flames of Paris, for 5 years. He also plays the lead in many other repertory pieces, but his favourite is still Philippe.
It was my first main role here. My first baby, so to speak. And that's why it's so dear to me. It was my first show, and there are so many memories connected to it.
His early success was a result of hard training, and that continues today. He practices from dawn till dusk. His teacher, Valery Lagunov, is particularly proud of him.
Among the very young ones, he's one of the most outstanding. He's very actively involved with the repertoire, and his last works speak for themselves. He's already danced 15 or so lead roles, and recently only the most complicated ones.
But tonight Lantratov misses out on the prize for the best dancer. Instead, the honours go to Dane Alban Lendov and a fellow Russian, Vadim Muntagirov. He's a bit disappointed, but determined to soldier on.
Life goes on. Such awards can push you further to the top. But if you don't get it, you try to do everything to get it next time.
At his young age, Lantratov has a promising career ahead. And as he soars to new heights, it's unlikely to be long before he picks up his own Prix Benoît de la Danse.
Well, it's obviously the time of year for awards, as we now take a look at the world's best restaurant. Among the top 10 nominees this year were restaurants in Brazil, the US, Germany, the UK, Italy and Denmark. But the top accolade went to El Cellar de Can Roca in Spain. We went to congratulate the three siblings on their achievement at their restaurant in Girona, some 100 kilometres northeast of Barcelona.
The Catalonian city of Girona, home to the world's best restaurant, El Cellar de Can Roca. 60 employees are on hand to cater to 55 guests. It costs €135 to dine here, a steal when you consider how sublime the food is.
World's best restaurant 2013 is El Cellar de Can Roca.
A month ago, British magazine Restaurant listed the 50 best restaurants in the world. A jury of 900 international professionals dubbed the three Spanish brothers, Joan, Josep and Jordi Roca, the world's best chefs.
Muy feliz, ¿no? Estamos flotando en una nube.
We're floating on a cloud. We're very happy about the award. But having a leading role in avant-garde cuisine is a big responsibility.
La cocina de alguna manera, la cocina de vanguardia.
Now it's time for the winners to show us what they're made of. Joan Roca is preparing one of his most popular dishes. These prawns heads are being dehydrated to make them crispy, while the bodies are quickly grilled over charcoal. Algae and plankton are added for a taste of the sea. The Roca brothers seek to awaken diners' emotions and memories. Their methods are often very avant-garde.
We distill earth, for example, to extract the aroma of moist earth. We're trying to evoke feelings such as melancholy or nostalgia. This aroma reminds us of the walks we used to take in the forest after a rain shower.
It all began next door in the bar run by their parents, an establishment that's still going strong. The three sons started helping out as children, and by 1986, two of them were ready to go it alone. Their logo is designed to symbolize teamwork. Today, Joan is head chef, Jordi takes care of desserts, and Josep is in charge of the wine.
It's the easiest thing in the world for us. We've always worked like this and don't know any other way. It's very natural.
Spain is regaining its reputation as the home of world-class cuisine. El Cellar de Can Roca isn't the only Spanish restaurant to shine. In San Sebastian, the Mugaritz and the Arzac also made it into the top 10. Spain did better than any other country this year. Journalist Julia Perez thinks the secret is the lively exchange of ideas between Spanish chefs. She's been watching the scene develop for more than 20 years.
The cooks here are very open with each other and happy to share their food and research findings. It's been an asset to the whole culinary movement in Spain.
Celebrity chef Ferran Adrià is a pioneer of molecular cooking in Spain. His restaurant El Bulli was named the best restaurant in the world no less than 5 times before it closed 2 years ago. Many of the world's top chefs honed their craft at El Bulli, including Joan Roca in 1989.
We were anticipating the beginning of a revolution. It was a phase of creativity and nonconformity. We wanted to think freely about cooking, beyond the boundaries of academic, orthodox cooking.
And it turned out they were onto something. The Roca brothers are now fated as stars. But it's a long wait to eat at the best restaurant in the world. Weekend tables are booked a year in advance.
So if you're planning a trip to Spain and want to sample some award-winning cuisine, then you'd better book a table well in advance. Now, Richard Wagner was a German composer known primarily for his operas. His work has greatly influenced the development of classical music. Wagner was born in Leipzig on the 22nd of May, 1813, 200 years ago this last week. Suffice to say that celebrations are being held both in Leipzig and the northern Bavarian city of Bayreuth, where the famous composer used to hold court.
This is Bayreuth, and this is where, after years of wandering, Richard Wagner finally settled down at age 60. The world-renowned festival theatre stands as a monument to Wagner and Bayreuth alike. To mark Richard Wagner's 200th birthday, the city is offering guided tours of sites associated with the legendary composer.
Everyone thinks of the Festival Theatre on the Green Hill, of course. But there are many other reminders, not just the famous sites such as Villa Wahnfried, but other places where you can follow in Wagner's footsteps.
Richard Wagner moved to Bayreuth in 1872. At first, he and his family stayed in a little hotel called Fantasie in the suburb of Dondorf. The Wagner family's room can still be viewed here, with many of the original furnishings. Soon, the composer had a house of his own built in Bayreuth, the Villa Wahnfried, which is currently undergoing a painstaking restoration. It was a place where Wagner could at last feel truly at home after years of being on the move.
He moved often for professional and political reasons. He was politically persecuted and forced into exile. His finances were shaky too, and he had to flee his creditors. But here, for the first time, he'd found a home in Villa Wahnfried in Bayreuth, and this is where he spent the last 10 years of his life.
Wagner's path can also be traced through the court garden, where he went for a stroll with his wife almost daily. Richard Wagner kept up an active social life in Bayreuth, receiving guests at home and going out. He often went to the Euler, a tried and true old restaurant in the city centre. He's said to have been partial to the restaurant's stuffed pigeon and Franconian beer.
He really ate very well here, and he enjoyed life in Bayreuth. He liked the food and drink very, very much. And the Euler was part of that.
Another key site is Steingräber & Sons Pianos. The company has made the grand pianos for the annual Bayreuth festivals up to the present day. For his opera Parzival, Wagner had Steingräber build a special instrument that sounded like church bells, known as the Parzival bell.
Everyone who loves Wagner knows these sounds. The bell motif in Parsifal from the first and third acts. It's an incredibly forceful sound. Just imagine, you'd need a bell weighing over 200,000 kilos to produce a sound like that.
Bayreuth's main Wagner site remains the Festival Theatre. A theatre built specially to perform his works was the fulfillment of one of the composer's greatest dreams.
He had this built. Originally, it was a half-timbered wooden structure. Now the wooden beams have been replaced with concrete and reinforced with steel, but renovation is always needed. And that's just what Wagner intended. He always said children create new things, and here we're taking another step to a renovated theatre.
Wagner died on a trip to Italy in 1883. He is buried in the garden of Villa Wahnfried in Bayreuth.
And that brings us to the end of the show for today. Thanks for tuning in, and join us again soon to keep up with the latest lifestyle news around Europe. For now, though, from all of us here, goodbye.